Hello players and plebs, my name is TV Sky, and for those who don't know, I'm a fairly avid fan of European League of Legends esports. So, in celebration that the newly named LEC is finally back on the air, I thought, why not take a look at the aesthetics of the sport and do a power ranking of all the brands of the teams involved in the league. There's probably lots of reasons why not, but I don't want to hear them. Here we go! Number 10. SK Gaming. Oh, right. Yeah, SK Gaming. Ugh. Okay, so this is the logo of an industrial logistics company. This is the logo of a middle-grade construction firm or a financial consultant agency. It's a stylized vector graphic combining the shape of two letters with no flair or exuberance. There's a certain style of esports logos that tries very, very hard not to look like it has anything to do with silly video games. No, we are a respectable professional company with a professional logo, and we work in offices and wear suits and go to meetings, and SK Gaming is a prime example of that particular genre. Nothing about the logo communicates esports. Nothing about the logo says entertainment, sports, or even fun. SK is an old, venerated, and reliable esports organization, but oh my god, does their branding not look like it. They do try to make up some of the difference in the jersey by using the curves of the logo to create some irregular shape language across the chest and create some visual interest, combined with a bright pink that they've borrowed from T-Mobile to add a little flair. It's probably about the best use of the logo you could do to integrate into a jersey design, but still, I look at these jerseys and I'm not sure if I'm looking at high-level gamer uniforms or promotional t-shirts that were given away at a joint T-Mobile and BMW industrial conference. Number 9. Origin. Origin's logo used to be about as boring as SK's, but the little star they added to the middle when they merged with Astralis at least implies a little bit of fun and flair. Still, most of what I said about SK still applies here. The logo could be used for an accountancy firm just as easily as an esports team. The idea of logos like these is that they are instantly readable and recognizable and hopefully iconic, which they do manage to be to a certain extent, but it's just that, in my opinion, those qualities aren't nearly as valuable to an esports team as image and personality. For their jersey, OG goes for a minimalist approach, with a solid blue background against a strong contrasting color for the team name and a few dots breaking up the negative space. I do like the asymmetry of having the Audi logo diagonally across from the team logo across the chest, and while it's not anything inspired, it's certainly a better sports jersey to me than SK's. Number 8. XL. XL, with their logo going for a more abstract rather than a literal feeling, get points for having a little bit of fun with the form factor, and while they also occupy the abstract could apply to anything logo class that's housing SK and Origin, they at least put a splash of color in the logo. It could still be the logo of a mid-sized hardware store, but at least it's not black and white. On the jersey front, XL takes a minimalist approach, similar to Origin, but with a slightly lighter color on the sleeves and gradient lines cutting across the torso, it's got a much more kinetic, dynamic, and fun feel that is ultimately a lot more sporty. Number 7. Schalke 04. Schalke is the first logo we're looking at that actually looks like it belongs to a sports team. Unfortunately, it looks like it belongs to a sports team that formed about 114 years ago. The reason for that is that Schalke 04 is a sports team that formed 114 years ago. The 04 in the name is a reference to 1904, the year that the club was founded. Now, that definitely has a lot of gravitas, and it's pretty cool, but it causes a bit of a problem for an esports team, because while esports is an extremely modern sport, Schalke 04's aesthetics are firmly stuck in the early 1900s, and the logo and the branding that comes along with it has far too much history and far too much emotional resonance associated with it to be easily updated to fit the 21st century. I do feel like there was a missed opportunity to call the esports division something like the Schalke Strikers, and really lean into the football aesthetic as a team gimmick, but I also completely understand why Schalke as an organization would want to hold on to the branding that has served them so well for so long. As for the jersey, it's about equivalent to OG and SK in its relatively uninteresting minimalism, but the pixelated mosaic pattern underlying the basic design at least implies a theme of computers and tech. Number 6. Fnatic. I will always cheer for Fnatic on the international stage and root for them to finally take the world's trophy home, but when it comes to logos and branding, they are unfortunately only middle tier. We're still in the realm of stylized letter logos, same as XL Origin and SK, but the shape language is more expansive and exuberant. Rather than trying to contain itself in a simple shape, the Fnatic logo spreads itself out and puts a jaunty little dot on top. Combine that with the bright Fnatic orange and you get a logo that's just too cheerful to be really boring. Still, nothing about the logo really implies the frantic excitement that a name like Fnatic demands, nor does the logo imply gaming or esports, leaving Fnatic just below the middle in terms of branding power ranking. In terms of their jersey, the subtle jagged blinds underlying the thing as a texture give the shirts a dynamic feel, and the strong orange stripes along the sides add interest to the proceedings. It's okay, but not groundbreaking. Number 5. Splice. Finally, an animal mascot. Animal mascots are the bread and butter of sports team imagery across the world, and for good reason, because they enable a raft of jokes, language puns, and associated imagery that can inform the team's aesthetic and merchandising. The only real issue I have with Splice's logo is that it's still stylized enough that it could be the brand of a car or an energy drink, but that's still fairly close to the kind of aesthetic that you'd want in a sports team. Splice's take on the esports jersey is pretty good, with a snakeskin-like pattern of scales broken up by long, sharp wedges that look like fangs. This is a great way to incorporate the animal imagery into the branding, and Splice would have been higher on the list had the next team not done the exact same thing, but just a little bit better. Number 4. Vitality. Vitality's logo is a stylized bee, whose wings describe a V. The weird vestigial legs and diamond shape for a head are not, in my opinion, great stylization decisions, but the insect theming is quirky and fun enough that it can inspire secondary and tertiary imagery that can be associated with the team in other branding products. Like, for instance, the jersey. This is where Vitality really earn a lot of points, because their jersey features a eye-catching honeycomb pattern and yellow racing stripes on black up and down, which imply both sportiness and kineticism, but also the stripes on a bee or wasp, which is both clever and cohesive. I like this more than Splice's branding, because while Splice tries to be smooth and graphic and cool, Vitality go full ham on the bee aesthetics, and I will always prefer esports brands that lean into the fun over those that just try to be cool. I miss you, unicorns of love. Number 3. Rogue. Full disclosure, I actually have a professional relationship with Rogue, which I don't think has colored my perception of the branding, but I thought I would just mention it regardless. Rogue is the first LEC team on our list to realize the value of a recognizable mascot. The Splice Snake and the Vitality Bee are both a bit too stylized and generic to qualify as real characters, but the Rogue is a clearly recognizable and indeed cosplayable mascot, which lends a lot of personality and interest to the team's branding. It also places the logo squarely in the long history of mascot sports logos, instantly communicating the idea of sports team in a way the lower-ranked teams on this list just don't really manage. As for the jerseys, we've got lovely Venetian blind halftone gradients, which imply roguelike invisibility, and a strong bright blue and black contrast on the sides that creates a cool wedge shape on the torso. The Rogue mascot being front and center on the jersey keeps it cartoony and fun-looking, and the little orange stripes on the arms, well, they just look cool. Number 2. Misfits. Like Rogue, Misfits have realized the value of a mascot logo. Like Rogue, Misfits clearly place themselves in the context and aesthetics of traditional sports branding. Like Rogue, the mascot brings a host of personality and interest to the team's aesthetic, and like Rogue, they have a sharp, colorful jersey with a cartoon branding on display and cool shape language going on. So if they're so equal, why does Misfit rank higher? Well, the mascot is a furry. And you can argue whatever you want, but furry mascots are just better. They're more approachable for the kids, they're easier to draw, they look better as mascot costumes, and in a sports context, they draw on a long and proud history of invoking animal tropes and attributes as an aspirational symbol for the team's victory. It's a slim win, but the furry mascot is honestly the biggest reason Misfits take the second spot. Which leads us on, finally, to number 1. G2. It really couldn't be anyone else, could it? Honestly, I think Misfit and Rogue probably have the better sports mascots, and on balance, probably the cooler jerseys, and yet, I prefer G2. Their logo manages to succeed where SK and XL fail by turning the G and the 2 into the ornamented face of a samurai battle mask. Rather than merely referencing the letters of a team name, the letters become a graphic expression of the team's identity, and the result is cartoony enough to identify G2 immediately as a sports team or at least as an entertainment outfit. The samurai aesthetic connects G2 to a staggering range of cultural references, granting them access to everything from Akira Kurosawa to anime fighting games to draw upon. It lets them fit naturally into the roles of both hero and villain, underdog and overlord. But what really matters, what really puts G2 in first place among the brands of the LEC, is that nobody in Europe or any other region commit half as hard or go 1/10 as ham on any part of their branding narrative as G2 does with its samurai gimmick. G2 are edgelords, G2 are drama queens, G2 is an entire anime. Their jerseys depict a lethal sword stroke complete with a spray of blood. Their mascot wears a mask with a glowing red LED eye and an edgy combat scar. They offer wallpapers rendered in imitation sumi-e Japanese inking art style. They post illustrations like this to social media, and this, and this, and this. Only the Unicorns of Love have ever challenged G2 for commitment to a team gimmick, and with Unicorns gone, G2 stands alone as the undisputed kings of European esports branding in the League of Legends European Championship. Boy, this is not really nearly as catchy of a title as I thought it was gonna be. Anyway, that's my list. Do you agree or disagree? Well, you can tell me down in the comments which teams you would rank differently and why. Now, usually this is where I would plug my own Patreon, but today I'm plugging something else. My friends over at The Shot Caller have spent the last full year building up a presence as some of the best third-party independent esports coverage in Europe. Independent esports journalism is not a huge profit industry, and they are having trouble finding sponsors to work with, and absent any changes to their current financial situation, they will be closing their doors at the end of the spring split of this year. Independent coverage is important to the health of any sports scene, so if you want to and you are able to, please consider donating to their Patreon to help them keep the lights on, pay their staff, and continue their coverage. Or, if you happen to be associated with a business or brand who wants to advertise to an esports audience, well, here's an opportunity you should look into. As for all the rest of you, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.